There are people who show up and instantly draw attention, even though they do not try. They don't need to speak much, they don't need to put on a show, and yet they radiate a magnetism that makes others want to listen and connect. That is magnetism, a real form of energy, something everyone can feel, but not everyone knows how to nurture in order to make it stronger. What is fascinating is that this invisible magnet has nothing to do with appearance or social status, but comes from one's inner state. When the inside is peaceful, free, and full, that energy will naturally radiate outward. Carl Jung once emphasized that the external world only reflects what is happening in the soul, which is why a troubled inner world will always be accompanied by restless experiences, while a full and balanced soul, on the contrary, opens to a richer and more attractive reality. In this video, we will explore 6 clear signs that a person has reached magnetic vibration, an energetic state in which they don't need to prove anything but are still loved, don't need to chase, but all good things naturally come to them. Watch until the end, because you may realize that you yourself are already on the journey of becoming someone with a rare magnetism you never knew existed. Number 1. You do not react to provocation, and you understand the nature of magnetic vibration. Have you ever met someone who, the moment they walk into a room, changes the atmosphere? Not because they said anything shocking, nor because they wore extravagant clothing. Simply put, they have a different presence, quiet, grounded, making you want to listen, want to sit beside them without even knowing why. That is the first sign of magnetic vibration. To picture it more clearly, think of a radio. Each station broadcasts at a unique frequency. When you tune in correctly, the sound comes in clearly. When you miss the frequency, there is only static. Humans are the same. Every emotion, every thought, every attitude radiates a certain frequency. When you are at peace, grateful, loving, you vibrate at a high frequency. When you are And the first sign of that is, you no longer react to provocation. Most of us live in a reactive state. A word of criticism is enough to pierce the heart. A contemptuous look is enough to inflame us. The usual reaction would be anger or suppressed resentment that lingers the entire day. But if you stop, breathe deeply, and ask yourself, is this worth losing my energy over? You have just reclaimed your power. It's not that you didn't feel anything, but that you didn't let that feeling dictate your action. The same applies to work. Suppose a colleague says, "This idea is ridiculous." If you react, you lose your balance, become defensive, and the whole meeting sinks into tension. But if you smile, breathe steadily, and calmly ask, "Could you share more so I can better understand your perspective?" the atmosphere shifts. They don't get the explosion they expected, while everyone else sees in you a remarkable steadiness. It is that very calm that becomes true magnetism. Jung called this mastery of the inner shadow. Every time we react impulsively, it is the shadow, anger, insecurity, fear that is in control. A person with magnetic vibration is not someone without shadow, but someone who has accepted and integrated it so that it no longer dictates their life. Nelson Mandela is a vivid example. For 27 years in prison, he endured insults, provocations, and injustice. Yet when he was freed, Mandela did not choose revenge. He walked out with a calm spirit, actively initiating reconciliation. His refusal to react with hatred turned him into a global symbol of freedom and humanity. He may have lost everything, but he never lost his inner energy. And that is why the world was irresistibly drawn to him, listening to his every word, trusting his every act. In daily life, you can also recognize those who carry this energy. In them there is a calm that makes you breathe slower. When provoked, they don't explode. When chaos erupts, they don't join the frenzy. They just observe and choose the right time to speak so that their words carry weight. The less they waver, the more magnetic they become. They are like a still lake. When you look in, everything appears clear. But if the lake is constantly disturbed by reactions, all you see is distortion. It is important to note that not reacting does not mean being passive or weak. On the contrary, it is strength. The weak are easily provoked, but the truly strong know how to save their energy for what is worthy. You don't need to prove yourself by shouting louder or striking harder. What makes others respect you is precisely your ability to not let provocations reach the root of your soul. If you want to train this, start with a simple practice. When provoked, pause for 5 seconds, breathe, and ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Those 5 seconds are like a bridge, taking you from reaction to choice. And that choice transforms you from an ordinary person into someone magnetic. Your vibration is a magnet. Radiate peace, and you attract peace. Radiate anxiety, and you attract chaos. The choice is always yours, every minute, every second. That is the very foundation of magnetic vibration. Not reacting to provocation, but keeping your energy to nurture inner stillness. And when you practice long enough, you will notice something strange. The outside world also begins to respond differently to you. The hot-tempered person who once lost control around you suddenly softens. Tense situations dissolve faster because your magnetic field has changed. Have you ever tried to stay calm in a tense situation? Share your experience in the comments so that together we can learn, raise our vibration frequency, and become more magnetic every day. Number 2. You learn the art of letting go. When someone begins to find strength in stillness, they will notice another burden silently weighing down their vibration. Attachments, regrets, and fears not yet released. You may no longer react to outside provocations, but if inside you still cling to the past or worry about what you might lose, your energy still feels heavy and your vibration is not truly free. That's why, to reach a stronger magnetic state, the next step is learning the art of letting go. Letting go does not mean forgetting or pretending it never happened. It simply means accepting that some things have completed their role in your life, and there is no need to let them linger any longer. When you cling, your mind constantly revolves around what has been lost or what might be lost, making you heavy and exhausted. But when you dare to release, you give yourself the chance to return to the present, lighter and freer. And it is that freedom that elevates your vibration and makes your energy magnetic. In reality, you may have witnessed someone unable to leave behind a dead relationship, a decayed job, or even an old obsession. They hold on because of fear of loneliness, fear of losing security, fear of starting again. I once met a woman who, years after her divorce, still kept the habit of not changing the seat in her living room because that was where her ex-husband used to sit. But that habit turned her home into a museum of the past, and she lived like someone in chains. Only when one day she dared to change everything did she break down in tears, realizing she was still alive and had the right to move forward. Carl Jung once said, "The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of its parents." A person who cannot let go lives as if bound to the past and to things no longer suitable. That energy is like carrying a backpack full of stones every day. You think you need it, but in reality, it only drags you down. In contrast, those with magnetic vibration are not afraid to let go. They don't see loss as an end, but as life's natural filtering. They understand that what truly belongs to them will stay, and what has fulfilled its mission will leave. Just like autumn lets its leaves fall, not because the tree is dying, but because it is preparing nourishment for the new spring. When you learn the art of letting go, your energy becomes lighter, clearer, and infinitely more magnetic. In analytical psychology, Jung viewed attachment as a form of projection. We assign to a relationship, an object, or an idea the power to sustain our identity. We think, without this person, I am nothing, or if I lose this job, I will collapse. But in truth, that is only projection. We use external things to cover inner emptiness. When we dare to let go, we withdraw those projections and begin to live from our true inner source. That is why those who can let go become magnetic. They are not tied down by anything, so they are light, free, and their energy radiates as attraction. Look at romantic relationships. Some people, even when hurt or betrayed, do not dare to leave, because they fear that letting go means being alone forever. Yet paradoxically, the clinging makes them lose their light, becoming small in the other's eyes. Those who dare to let go, in contrast, often become stronger and more magnetic. They don't hold anyone by fear, but choose to hold themselves with respect. And the world is naturally drawn to them, because freedom is the most beautiful energy of all. Think of holding a handful of sand. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips away. But if you open your hand, the sand remains, and you are no longer in pain from trying to hold it with all your strength. Life is the same. When we cling, what we try to keep often slips away faster. When we let go, what is truly ours will remain. Carl Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." The art of letting go is choice. You are not the losses of the past. You are not what someone did to you. You are the one who decides whether to move forward or stay stuck. And that decision will shape your vibration. Heavy or light. Bound or free. One reason those who let go become magnetic is that they are not afraid of emptiness. Many keep toxic things just to avoid emptiness. They think better something than nothing, but don't realize that this something is what drains them. The magnetic person understands that emptiness is not the enemy, but an invitation for something new to enter. When you let go, you create space, and that space is fertile ground for better opportunities, relationships, and experiences. In practice, you can try a small exercise. Imagine if tomorrow morning you woke up and no longer held on to what has been binding you, a person, a fear, a memory. How much lighter would you feel? How many new possibilities would life reveal? Just allowing your mind to imagine this brings you closer to the lightness and freedom of letting go. Of course, letting go is not easy. It requires courage, because letting go means facing emptiness, uncertainty. But only when you dare to walk through that emptiness do you truly grow. And when you step out of the past, release the chains, your energy transforms. Others feel it even without you saying a word. You are like a bird without tied feet, free to soar across the sky. And it is precisely that freedom that is the most irresistible magnetism. Number 3. You master the art of silence and mystery. After learning how to let go, a person becomes lighter and freer. But there is still another quality that allows their energy to truly radiate magnetism: silence and mystery. In a noisy world where everyone wants to talk more, prove more, those who know how to remain silent at the right moments naturally become the center. They don't need to try, because their unpredictability and calm are enough to draw others in. This silence is not emptiness or helplessness. It is a choice. The strong are not those who talk the most, but those who control their own story, knowing when to share and when to hold back. Carl Jung once observed that a truly powerful person is one who controls the image and story they leave in the minds of others. If you reveal too much, you become predictable. If you hold something back, you allow the imagination of others to do the rest. And imagination often makes your image far more captivating. I remember a story from a therapy session. A middle-aged woman, successful in her career but weary in her marriage, walked in with anxious eyes. She started speaking continuously about her husband. He was too strict, too controlling, too distrusting. For 15 minutes, she poured out complaint after complaint. The therapist simply sat there, listening, not interrupting, not offering advice. The more she talked, the louder she became. Her breath quickened, as if she was building a wall to shield her inner fear. Then suddenly, the room fell into silence. The therapist was still there, calm eyes, no judgment, no rush to ask questions. The silence stretched, thickening the air, forcing the woman to listen to her own words. She faltered, stopped, then blurted out. She actually felt unworthy and abandoned by her husband. That admission came not because anyone pushed her, but because silence created the space for her inner truth to emerge. As you can see, sometimes silent presence has more power to liberate than any words. That woman had never dared admit her real fear, but when there was no more noise to cling to, she had to face herself. And that was when true therapy began. In daily life, the same applies. Those who know how to keep silent make others feel safe because they do not get caught in haste or the need to prove themselves. They give others space to express while keeping their own mystery. Around them, you slow down, want to listen, want to discover. It is precisely their withholding, their not showing everything, that makes them magnetic, Silence is not avoidance or deficiency, but a sign of steadiness. The weak need to explain immediately, to talk in order to fill the void. The strong know not every moment requires words. Sometimes, letting actions speak carries much more weight. In relationships, mystery is also a magnetic energy. Those who don't rush to expose everything make others want to learn more, want to come closer. They have an inner world that others must gradually discover. And curiosity itself is the magnet that pulls people together. Silence is like the rests in a musical composition. If there were only continuous notes, the music would be dull. But it is the pauses that make each note stand out. In communication, the same is true. If you talk non-stop, words lose weight. But if you pause, choose the right moment to speak, each word rings far more powerfully. Magnetic people know how to command this pause. They don't rush to interject, don't boast, don't hastily justify. They listen, observe, and let others reveal themselves. And when they do speak, the whole space stops to listen. To practice the art of silence and mystery, you can start with small steps. In conversation, try listening a little longer before responding. When misunderstood, allow yourself not to explain immediately. Let time and actions prove your truth. When sharing, choose carefully, keeping some things for yourself. Gradually, you'll notice your presence changes. You say less, but attract more attention. The magnetism of silence is not about speaking little, but about the feeling you create in the pause. A tense silence makes others uneasy, but a calm silence makes others want to stay near. When you are truly comfortable with your own stillness, mystery naturally radiates. Carl Jung once said, "In all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder a secret order." When you learn to sit quietly in silence, you realize beneath the noise and chaos of the world lies a deeper order. And connecting with that order is what makes you magnetic. If right now you can feel that magnetic pull in these very words, leave a like for this video. It will be a quiet but meaningful way to affirm that you have begun touching one of the signs of magnetic vibration, the kind of energy Carl Jung believed could captivate, haunt, and never be forgotten. Number 4. You prioritize yourself without guilt. Once someone learns to cherish silence and preserve a sense of mystery, another challenge arises. Can they put themselves first without being tortured by guilt? Because throughout life, so many are caught in the cycle of living to please others, sacrificing themselves just to earn scraps of love and approval. But magnetic energy cannot flourish in a soul that is constantly submissive. It only emerges when you dare to value yourself, set boundaries, and protect your energy as a precious resource. In today's society, self-prioritization is often labeled as selfish. But in truth, self-love does not take away from anyone else. It is simply learning to care for, listen to, and respect yourself. It is not the rejection of others, but the affirmation of yourself, so that you are full before you give. I recall a young woman, a manager at a media company, who told me she always accepted extra tasks so that no one would be disappointed. She took on whatever colleagues asked, handled urgent tasks from her boss at all hours, then went home to continue caring for family. On the outside, she was the perfect woman, but inside she was drained and sometimes resentful of the very people she loved. When I asked why she couldn't say no, she answered, "I'm afraid if I don't do it, people won't respect me anymore. That fear turned her into an empty vessel, always pouring out for others, but never refilling herself. Carl Jung pointed this out in his concept of individuation, the process of becoming oneself. Only when you dare to live true to your nature, not bound by pleasing others, can you truly grow as an individual. Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And to achieve that, you must have the courage to set boundaries, to prioritize your real needs." Modern science confirms this. Research by Dr. Brené Brown shows that people who set clear boundaries are happier and more connected. They understand that when they say no to what drains them, they are saying yes to self-respect. In contrast, constantly pleasing others makes the brain release excess cortisol, the stress hormone, which weakens the body, tires the spirit, and drags down vibration. Those with high vibration understand clearly. You can't pour from an empty cup. If you are drained, what you give is only frustration, resentment, or obligation. But when you are full of energy, the love you give flows naturally and abundantly. This is the difference. Self-love is not selfishness, but the foundation for loving others healthily. Remember the simple rule on airplanes. Put on your own oxygen mask before helping others. If you faint from lack of oxygen, you cannot save anyone. Life is the same. If you don't prioritize yourself, you'll soon be exhausted and no longer a steady support for anyone. And when you care for yourself, relationships naturally improve, because others are with a whole version of you, not a depleted replica. The key is distinguishing sacrifice born of love from sacrifice born of fear. Sacrifice from love is voluntary, leaving joy afterward. Sacrifice from fear is done to avoid losing approval, leaving exhaustion. Magnetic people never choose the latter because they know it lowers their frequency. To practice prioritizing yourself without guilt, start with small steps. Recognize your emotions before agreeing to something. Try saying no in minor situations and observe how it feels. Spend time nurturing yourself with activities that recharge you. Replace the belief that self-love is selfish with the truth that it is the basis of respect. Magnetic people do not need to sacrifice themselves to be loved, because they radiate love from within fullness. The world is naturally drawn to that source of light. When you dare to accept both strengths and flaws, you are no longer controlled by fear of rejection. You become free, whole, and it is that wholeness that is the root of attraction. Number 5, you no longer seek external validation. There is a subtle yet crucial turning point in inner growth. The moment you realize you are no longer living for a look of approval, a word of recognition, or applause from others. In the past, you may have exhausted yourself chasing expectations from family, society, or people you thought you needed to please. But the more you did that, the further you drifted from your true self. Only when you stop seeking validation outside do your energy and magnetism shine clearly, freely, and powerfully. This reminds me of Psyche, a figure from Greek mythology. The story tells of Psyche, a mortal woman of great beauty, who was so often compared to the goddess Aphrodite that Aphrodite grew jealous and sought to punish her. Throughout her journey, Psyche endured harsh trials just to prove she was worthy of the love of Eros. But only when Psyche stopped striving to please the gods, when she embraced her own vulnerability and chose to be true to her heart, was she finally granted immortal wings. The message is close to us. When we live to please, we become puppets to expectation. But when we live authentically, we find true freedom and strength. Psyche no longer needed recognition of her beauty because she had become whole, and that was her eternal magnetism. Carl Jung once wrote, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases." This reveals a truth. You cannot live by collective standards and expect peace. Each person has a unique essence, a unique path, a unique rhythm. When you stop seeking external validation, you begin to hear the inner call, the only voice truly worthy of guiding you. In daily life, the search for validation appears in subtle ways. A woman posts a photo online and waits for likes to feel beautiful. A wife exhausts herself cooking and cleaning, forgetting herself, just to hear a compliment from her husband. A mother overburdens herself with everything, fearing neighbors' judgment. These moments may seem small, but accumulated, they cause women to lose their connection with themselves. When self-worth is placed in others' hands, energy becomes shaky and insecure. In contrast, a woman who knows her worth is different. She doesn't need compliments to know she's beautiful, doesn't need anyone's recognition to know she's capable. She does what suits her, and the energy radiating from that certainty naturally draws others in. People respect her not because she pleases all, but because she dares to be herself. That is magnetic energy, not loud, not flashy, but powerful like an invisible field. To cultivate this quality, try a simple exercise. Before each decision, ask yourself, if no one knew, would I still choose this? That question is like a mirror, helping you distinguish between acting for yourself or for others' eyes. At first, you may feel empty, as if losing a familiar crutch. But gradually, you learn to stand firm on your own feet, and true confidence takes root. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. It is frightening to face and embrace the whole self, both strengths and weaknesses. But that moment also frees you from the chains of external validation. Once you have accepted yourself, no praise or criticism can shake you. You walk freely, and that freedom radiates as magnetism, drawing the world near. Your energy becomes steady like a rooted tree, not needing ornaments yet offering shade. Recognition, if it comes, is only a gift, not a condition for your value. You no longer seek, because you are already the destination." So we reach an important turning point. The moment you stop chasing external approval and begin to return to yourself. Before we continue, pause a moment, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and ask, if no one saw me, would I still choose to live this way? If that question stirs your heart, write in the comments a simple sentence. I choose to live true to myself. Sometimes, a simple affirmation is enough to plant the seed of change, not only in your mind, but also to inspire someone lost out there. And perhaps you will become the living proof of the magnetic energy Carl Jung described. Number 6. You reach the state of inner abundance. When one stops seeking validation from others' eyes, another door opens, the journey to discover fullness from within. Like when you no longer crave compliments to prove your worth, you start hearing the quiet but profound voice of the soul, where the source of inner abundance flows. This is not wealth measured in money or achievements, but fullness radiating from inside. A low-vibration person lives in scarcity, always comparing themselves, envying others' success, fearing they'll be left behind. But high-vibration people are different. They view the world with gratitude, trust that they are always supported, and therefore they can give without fear of depletion. Carl Jung affirmed, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." The outer world is only a mirror reflecting the inner. If inside is scarcity, you only see competition and injustice outside. But if inside is fullness, you find generosity everywhere. High-vibration people know reality is not an enemy, but a mirror. Instead of trying to change the mirror, they turn inward to nurture their soul, and the reflection naturally brightens. I once heard a young woman share that she always felt lacking, even though she had a good job and a loving family. That belief kept her from enjoying what she had. The therapist did not give advice immediately, but asked her to write 3 things she was grateful for each morning, then pause a minute to feel it in her body. At first she found it silly, but after weeks, her eyes changed. One morning, sipping tea, she suddenly felt joy at the sunlight through the window. Another evening, watching her child sleep, she teared up realizing how rich she truly was. Her energy shifted, lighter, more open, less comparative. Inner abundance made her magnetic, without any effort to prove. Imagine a golden field of rice. The farmer standing there has no fear the rice will disappear, because they know the harvest will return next year. The feeling of abundance is like that, faith in life's natural cycle. Today you may lose an opportunity, but tomorrow another comes. Today you give, tomorrow you receive in a different way. When you trust in abundance, your soul no longer closes from fear, but opens to receive, and thus you become the flow, not the stuck stone. Low-vibration people clutch everything, thinking if they let go, they'll have nothing. But that clinging is what burdens energy. High-vibration people are the opposite. They know what belongs will stay, and what has finished its role can leave. They give a compliment, a smile, a helping hand without fear of lacking, because they trust they are standing in a river that never stops flowing, and as long as they open their hand, water will fill it. One of the clearest expressions of abundance is gratitude. Gratitude is not just a passing thought, but a state of vibration. When you truly feel gratitude, every cell expands, vibrating at a higher frequency. People often say, emotions are like radio signals sent into the universe. If you broadcast gratitude, the world returns more reasons to be grateful. This is not mystical. It is the reflection principle Jung described. When inside changes, outside changes. Remember that abundance does not come from how much you have, but from your ability to enjoy. A person with money but always fearing loss will never feel full. Another person with less, but who delights in a simple meal, a rainy afternoon, a genuine hug, And that expansion is the strongest magnetism. Inner abundance is not a faraway goal, but a daily practice. It comes from daring to believe life is never scarce, from giving without fear, from enjoying each small thing. Living in abundance, you become the harvest field, the flowing river, the ever-burning lamp. And that is the source of magnetic vibration, attraction without proof, because it is present in every breath, every look, every smile. In the end, magnetic vibration is not something to find outside. It is not in medals, in praise, or endless comparisons. It can only grow from within, when one knows how to be still amidst noise, to let go, to set boundaries, to stop seeking approval, and to live in fullness. Then the inner energy naturally becomes an invisible field, changing the world around. If one day you realize you don't need to strain to impress, no longer fear saying no, no longer get caught in judgment or the urge to prove, that is when you are close to magnetic vibration. True attraction never comes from noise, but from the depth of presence. And as Jung emphasized, the external world is only a mirror of the soul. When the inner is abundant and steady, the reflection will naturally shine. That is the silent, yet greatest reward, to live as yourself and let that self radiate magnetism without proof. If you feel these truths resonating within you, see it as a sign that your journey has already begun. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to keep walking with us, where many more of Jung's journeys will be revealed, guiding you ever closer to the radiant self that has always been yours. Have you ever wondered, what if dreams are not mere randomness? What if they are messages sent from the deepest realms of humanity? Jung believed that among us exists a community of women who possess a wisdom not measured by metrics, but by flesh and intuition. When they enter a room, the air shifts hue, not because of what they say, but because their presence touches the deepest parts of us. Jung called this the transcendent emotional function, a refined tool that discerns truth, deception, pain, and joy hidden beneath the surface of interaction. For Jung, they are those with porous ego boundaries, able to access the collective unconscious without losing themselves. This strength is both a gift and a burden. To see clearly is to see even what others wish to conceal. Thus, they choose deliberate silence to heed the call of the soul and return to their authentic essence. When they re-engage with life, they bring a striking precision. Few words, perfectly timed, perfectly placed. If you've ever felt you knew something before your rational mind caught up, if loneliness has ever called your name, if meaningful coincidences always arrive at the right moment, then it's likely you belong to this community. In today's video, we will unlock the 6 invisible hallmarks of women who wield profound spiritual power. Stay until the end, for only when you see all 6 of these hallmarks in their entirety will you understand why they are not merely traits, but a summons to the journey of becoming your truest, deepest, undeniable self. Sign 1. Intuitive wisdom. There are women who, upon entering a room, make you feel you've known something before a single greeting is uttered. An invisible shift, like an undercurrent rippling through the air. No one can pinpoint it with the naked eye, but everyone feels it. Something is different. It's not physical beauty, nor performed confidence, but an energy field emanating from them, a form of intuitive wisdom that Carl Jung described as the highest expression of the emotional function. Jung emphasized that when the emotional function reaches its peak, it transcends ordinary sensitivity. It becomes a finely tuned instrument, like an antenna, picking up subtle signals most of us overlook. Many label these women as overly emotional or hypersensitive, but in truth, they are not simply prone to emotions. They perceive, on a spiritual level, what others cannot name. This is not emotion overpowering reason, but a wisdom that operates through intuition, through the ability to sense the invisible fields of people and spaces. Jung once analyzed that such women are like barometers of the human condition. They don't just hear what is said, they hear what is never spoken. And when they listen, they don't hoard it as a burden, but transform it into an invisible map to navigate who is genuine, who is false, who is in pain, who is joyful. This is why they are rarely deceived by appearances. Modern neuroscience sheds some light on this phenomenon. Studies on mirror neurons suggest the brain can reflect others' emotions. For some, this mechanism may be heightened, combining with accumulated experiences and latent memories to create an almost innate ability to read energy fields. They are like radios, tuning into signals others don't even know exist. However, this ability should not be romanticized as a gentle gift. To see clearly is to see truths others wish to hide. She will detect betrayal before evidence surfaces, know a relationship has decayed even when both parties pretend all is well. This can become a burden. When you constantly see through masks, life ceases to be simple. These women often find themselves isolated, not because they've done anything wrong, but because their presence inadvertently illuminates truths others aren't ready to face. For instance, in the workplace, a woman with this ability is often the first to warn that a project or partner feels off, even when everything looks perfect on paper. At first, she may be dismissed as overly cautious or paranoid, but time often proves her right. This acuity is not superstition, but a knack for recognizing patterns. Jung called it identifying patterns at the unconscious level. Interestingly, this ability isn't always innate. Often it is forged through the history of women across generations. Think of the grandmothers and mothers in families that survived pain, violence, or adversity. They had to read signs in footsteps, intentions in glances to endure. Thus, intuitive wisdom may be a cross-generational inheritance, a kind of neural legacy passed through bloodlines. A woman today may not understand why she feels drained after a party, or why she senses something amiss in a new acquaintance. But that is the flow of her ancestors operating within her, a radar instinct programmed through generations. Yet Jung reminds us that seeing clearly does not mean judging. This woman is not necessarily the one pointing fingers to expose others, but a quiet mirror. Her authentic presence alone is enough to stir unease in those hiding their true selves. Like light that reveals darkness without speaking, she doesn't need to point out truths. They manifest in her presence. Still, to live with this gift, they must learn to set boundaries. Without a filter, they risk exhaustion, overwhelmed by others' emotions as if they were their own. Jung called this the peril of those with flexible ego boundaries. They can dissolve into the surrounding energy if they don't learn to hold their center. Thus, True intuitive wisdom is not just about perceiving, but also about knowing when to close the door and when to open it. This is the vital art that allows them to preserve both their sensitivity and inner strength. Sign 2. Communion with the collective unconscious. When the inner mirror is polished through healthy boundaries, it begins to reflect the shared currents of humanity. Carl Jung spoke of a layer deeper than the personal ego, a vast ocean he called the collective unconscious. If the personal unconscious holds individual memories and experiences, the collective unconscious is like an eternal library of humanity, storing archetypal symbols, ancient myths, and spiritual patterns that have shaped every civilization. Most of us only glimpse it in strange dreams, fleeting premonitions, or sudden intuitive flashes. But for women with heightened spiritual wisdom, the door to this treasury is not just ajar, it is wide open. They don't merely catch glimmers, they live within its flow. Recall a dream you've had, a snake slithering from the shadows, a rushing river sweeping you away, or a strange house where you enter but can't find the way out. Such dreams often unsettle us, but in Jung's view, they are the language of the collective unconscious. The snake is not just a snake, it may symbolize rebirth or transformation. The water is not merely a physical stream, but a metaphor for primal emotions. The house is not just architecture, but an image of your soul. Women with profound spiritual wisdom can naturally decipher these symbols. For them, dreams are not random games, but telegrams sent from the deepest layers of human consciousness. Psychology partially explains this phenomenon. When someone has more permeable ego boundaries, they more easily connect to universal patterns rather than being confined to a personal worldview. This woman doesn't let her ego obscure her vision, so her mind is like a translucent veil, allowing the light of the collective unconscious to shine through. This doesn't erode her identity. Rather, it makes her a translator between the world of symbols and lived reality. On another level, these women can tune into information beyond personal needs. For example, they might feel restless or anxious without cause, only to learn days later of a family or community event mirroring their unease. Science might call this intuition, but Jung saw it as resonance with the collective unconscious, a realm where individual minds are never separate but interwoven in a broader network. This makes them collective interpreters, living not just for themselves, but carrying insights, lessons, or warnings from a shared system. To visualize, think of the internet. Most people access a few websites, seeking information for work or personal entertainment. But these women have admin access to a vast repository holding humanity's cultural history, symbols, and stories. When they dream or reflect, it's as if they're reading an ancient text and translating it into advice or action for the present. Pause here to close the external notebook and open an inner page. If you could truly tap into this ancient data, role, maintaining the connection between humanity and the invisible treasury that has nourished our culture and souls since time immemorial. They remind us that life is not governed solely by logic and matter, but also by meaningful symbols and coincidences, by deep currents that reason can never fully control. If you've ever had a dream come true, encountered coincidences that sent chills down your spine, or felt the universe is speaking to me, know that it's not an illusion. It may be the call of the collective unconscious. And perhaps you carry a piece of this hallmark, the ability to commune with the invisible depths that Jung devoted his life to exploring. Sign 3. Knowing how to detach from the crowd. If the second hallmark reveals how such a woman can converse with the collective unconscious as if listening to echoes from an ancient ocean, then the third unveils how she maintains that clarity. She knows when to withdraw from the noisy world to return to herself, for no one can hear the soul's whispers in a room filled with clamor. And Jung understood well that individuation, the journey to becoming one's true self, always requires phases of withdrawal from the collective. Not desperate isolation, but purposeful solitude, a silent laboratory of the soul. In a society that glorifies constant connection, where self-worth is often measured by the number of friends on social media or the frequency of appearances at events, a woman's choice to step out of that whirlwind is easily seen as eccentric, even problematic. But for her, silence is not a lack, but a source of life. When she closes the door, shuts out the sounds, and is left only with the space between herself and her inner world, that is when truth emerges like sediment settling after the water ceases to be stirred. Imagine a crystal-clear lake. If you constantly throw stones, the surface never calms enough to reflect the sky. The human mind is the same. In the crowd, amid the ceaseless flow of opinions, praises, criticisms, and comparisons, we can hardly see our own essence. But when detached from the crowd, free from the pressure to perform for others, such a woman can clearly behold the sky of her soul. And in that quietude, she is reborn. Jung emphasized that individuation is the journey of breaking free from collective molds to find the intact identity of the self. This does not mean opposing society or denying the collective, but a necessary process to avoid dissolving into shared expectations. A woman with profound spiritual wisdom understands that without knowing how to depart, she can never return to her own truth. For the crowd always tends to impose. There, everyone is encouraged to be alike, think alike, live alike. And for an awakened soul, living that way is no different from dying day by day. For example, some women, upon facing a major shock, loss, breakup, or career crisis, do not choose to dive into parties or seek comfort in the crowd. Instead, they retreat inward. They begin journaling, spending time walking alone, or even remaining silent for weeks on end. On the surface, it may seem like she is lost, but in reality, she is rebuilding herself from the roots. For in the silence, she finds the call of the soul, what Jung called the inner voice of the self. When she returns, she emerges with a steadfastness and clarity that the crowd never bestowed. It is crucial to understand that this withdrawal differs entirely from passive loneliness. Passive loneliness closes one off out of fear, out of rejection. But active solitude is a voluntary choice. The woman knows she needs space, not to escape, but to flourish. In that inner laboratory, she experiments with profound emotions, confronts the shadows, nurtures intuition, and listens to symbols rising from the unconscious. Like an artist retreating to the studio or a poet silent through the long night, her spiritual creativity requires uninvaded space. Studies on solitude show that when people spend voluntary time alone, brain regions related to creativity and problem-solving activate more strongly. It is no coincidence that many great ideas, from artworks to scientific discoveries, are conceived in moments of quiet. A woman with profound spiritual wisdom has unconsciously grasped this law from early on. She understands that silence is where secret life works. But this choice is far from easy. Family may accuse her of being too closed off, friends may think her distant, and society may label her unsociable. However, she learns to stand firm in the knowledge that withdrawal is not abandonment, but preparation. Preparation so that when she returns, she brings not fragments battered by the crowd, but a refined, intact self forged in silence. From Jung's perspective, this is an indispensable part of the individuation journey. No one can step into wholeness without daring to be alone. Paradoxically, in today's noisy society, these women become even rarer. While many are swept into the vortex of display and performance, they choose to hide away. While the world revels in flashing lights and applause, they find fulfillment in silent space. And that is what constitutes their invisible strength, the power of one who dares not need the crowd to prove her worth. Sign 4. Transforming pain into wisdom, the embodiment of the transcendent function. And precisely in those moments of quietude, a greater challenge awaits them, daring to stare directly into their deepest wounds. Instead of avoiding or fleeing, they enter it, embrace it, then transform it into wisdom. This is the path Jung called the transcendent function, the soul's capacity to reconcile contradictions, turn crises into rebirth opportunities, and transmute suffering into living knowledge. Most people fear the inner darkness. When in pain, we often seek distraction, burying ourselves in work, plunging into amusements, or self-soothing with optimistic slogans. But for women with profound spiritual strength, they do not easily abandon the pain, for they understand that pain is not an enemy, but a doorway. Hidden behind the wound is fertile ground where wisdom sprouts. Fleeing pain is no different from rejecting the seed of growth. Imagine raw metal thrown into fire. At extreme heat, it warps, melts, and seems to disintegrate. But that very process refines it, removes impurities, turning it into a more enduring alloy. Humans are the same. These women know that what seems to destroy them, loss, betrayal, breakdown, is the flame forging their essence. They do not deny the pain, but enter it like stepping into fire, emerging with a pure gold of wisdom. Jung called this the archetype of the wounded healer. Such a woman cannot merely learn healing from books. Her power comes from direct experience, prolonged sleepless nights, feelings of abandonment, helplessness before deep past wounds. But instead of letting those wounds drown her, she learns to observe, interpret, and gradually turn them into a key to empathy. When someone approaches with their own pain, she can look into their eyes and say, "I understand." Not with rational understanding, but with the very blood and tears that have flowed through her body. For example, a woman who has endured the loss of a loved one can sense the devastation in another's grieving heart. She does not offer hollow words like, "Be strong," or "Time will heal," for she knows such phrases only deepen the wound. Instead, she is present, sits beside, silent, letting her presence become companionship. This is the strength of one who has traversed suffering. They do not fear the silence of tears. They do not rush to patch the wound, for they know healing only begins when pain is honored. From a modern psychological viewpoint, this process can be likened to post-traumatic growth. Many studies show that those who confront and accept suffering often develop deeper empathy, a greater ability to find meaning in life, and more enduring inner strength. A woman with profound spiritual wisdom not only undergoes this unconsciously, but also knows how to use it as a means to serve others. The core of Jung's philosophy is, the transcendent function operates when we hold two opposites in mind without hastily choosing one side. Pain and joy, darkness and light, despair and hope. Instead of excluding, this woman learns to grasp both, allowing that tension to birth a third capacity, wisdom that transcends. This is not superficial reconciliation, but a soul marriage where the ego and shadow unite, creating a broader, deeper self. Thus, these women often carry a presence that makes others feel safe. Not because they are perfect or have never fallen, but quite the opposite, because they have fallen, yet risen, carrying fire from the darkness. They are living proof that one can overcome suffering without losing compassion. Their presence is like a lantern. It does not dispel the darkness, but shines enough to guide the way. And what about you? If you've ever had a pain that, in retrospect, transformed into understanding, write down a few lines. Sometimes that act alone opens the door to your own awareness. However, it cannot be denied that this journey is full of risks. Entering pain demands courage, for many may get trapped, finding no way out. The difference here is that a woman with profound spiritual strength accepts that risk as a necessary right. She knows that without descending into hell, one will never find the treasure. Jung once wrote, "No enlightenment without passing through darkness." And these women are the embodiment of that philosophy. And precisely for this reason, such women become pivotal markers in the collective journey. For each time one transforms her own pain into wisdom, she not only heals herself, but opens a path for others. Pain ceases to be personal tragedy and becomes the material of empathy, of human knowledge. Emerging from darkness with fire in hand, they not only illuminate themselves, but also carry an invisible light that can soothe others' hearts. Sign 5. The healing energy field. Jung once emphasized that in therapy, the decisive factor lies not in techniques or advice, but in the being of the person sitting across. The therapist themselves is the instrument of therapy. This holds for women with profound spiritual strength. It is they, not their words, that are the message. We often think healing requires complex methods, mystical rituals, or at least profound advice. But in truth, many have experienced this reality. Simply sitting beside someone calm and fully present brings relief. No words are needed, yet the surrounding space softens, feels less heavy. This is the power of the energy field. Such a woman does not strive to heal anyone, but the equilibrium of her soul becomes a kind of invisible music, harmonizing those souls out of tune. When someone is in a state of peace, their nervous system emits signals of safety, causing the nervous system of those nearby to naturally calm. This is a biological mechanism, but for women with profound spiritual wisdom, it becomes a living art. She enters a tense room, and gradually the atmosphere cools. She sits beside someone in panic, and with a steady gaze and slow breaths, they begin to breathe evenly again. She doesn't need to do anything, for her very being is the remedy. Imagine, for instance, a child crying intensely from an injury. An adult might rush to soothe with words like, "It's okay, don't cry." But this often fails. Even making the child feel their pain isn't allowed. But if a woman sits down, holds them close, says nothing, and lets them cry until the pain subsides, her presence itself heals. A woman with profound spiritual strength does this not only for children, but for adults too, for she knows every wounded soul needs a safe space to be acknowledged. This power makes her a kind of invisible rhythm keeper. In a group of friends during conflict, she doesn't necessarily need to speak or mediate, yet her presence softens voices. In a family where tension rises, her mere appearance, without blame or interference, calms the air. Some call this charisma, others an aura, but Jung would see it as a manifestation of a self that has reconciled its darkness and light. Having walked through suffering, faced and integrated the shadow, she no longer emanates chaos. She becomes a sanctuary for others, simply because she has become a sanctuary for herself. Think of a stringed instrument. When one string is plucked, others with matching frequencies resonate in harmony, a phenomenon of resonance. A woman with a healing energy field is that tuned string. In her presence, souls out of sync resonate and realign to balance. This is no magic but a natural law of psychology and energy. Notably, she never uses this ability as a performance. She understands energy as a sacred resource, not to be flaunted or squandered. Thus, she speaks little, acts sparingly, but her words and actions carry weight. She knows a sincere glance can heal more than a lengthy speech. Like an artist of silence, she uses simplicity to create a profound impact. In reality, this often leaves others puzzled. Many leave a meeting with her saying, "I don't recall exactly what she said, but I feel lighter." Or, "Being near her makes me feel at peace." This is the proof of a healing energy field, an invisible yet potent impact surpassing any advice. Jung would call this the power of the self, the core of being that has integrated all fragmented parts, from light to shadow. When someone lives in harmony with the self, they need not strive to influence outwardly. The power naturally radiates. This woman is proof. She teaches not through philosophy but through the quiet emanating from a soul that has endured purgatory and returned whole. Yet, like any gift, this ability comes with responsibility. Without guarding her energy boundaries, she risks exhaustion, as wounded souls instinctively seek her like an anchor. She must learn to discern when to open fully and when to reserve for herself. Otherwise, she becomes an overloaded vessel. But once she masters this balance, her healing energy field ceases to be a burden and becomes a lasting gift to life. And that is the strength Jung saw as the essence of spiritual maturity. When you need to prove nothing, yet your presence transforms the crowd. Sign 6. Living in the flow of synchronicity, not seeking the sacred, but attracting it. The final hallmark reveals the secret that makes their lives a book written in wondrous pages. They do not chase the sacred, it is drawn to them. This is the workings of synchronicity, Carl Jung's renowned concept, often translated as meaningful coincidence. For most of us, synchronicity appears as rare moments that send a shiver. Thinking of an old friend, and receiving their message instantly, wandering into a bookstore and the one book you need falls from the shelf. Meeting a stranger whose brief conversation resolves a silent question in your heart. We often attribute these to chance or luck. But for women with profound spiritual wisdom, these are not rare. They are the rhythm of their lives. They dwell in a state Jung described as resonance between the inner and outer worlds. The difference is that they do not force synchronicity to appear. They don't chase signs or obsess over messages from the universe. Instead, their inner harmony, their alignment with the self, Jung's center of being, makes them natural magnets for meaningful events. Like a magnet, when they reach inner attunement, the universe responds by sending people, situations, and opportunities that match that frequency. Picture a damp forest after rain, where thousands of fireflies initially flicker sporadically. Then, suddenly, when humidity, temperature, and biological rhythms align, the entire forest pulses in unison. No signal sent, only harmony occurring. This woman is that rhythmic anchor. When her inner world aligns, the flashes of the outer world synchronize, meaningful coincidences, timely encounters, doors opening at the right moment. Without chasing, she is in the right place at the right time. Jung called this a non-causal connecting principle, meaning not everything is linked by direct cause and effect. Sometimes, events physically separate are bound by a layer of meaning. A woman living in this flow doesn't overanalyze, for she knows meaning is the universe's own language. When meaning resonates within, that is signal enough. From a scientific view, skeptics may call this selective attention, noticing more of what we focus on. But what sets these women apart is not just seeing signs, but acting in harmony with them. They neither obsess nor depend, using synchronicity as a complementary map, blended with reason and intuition. This fusion gives their lives a flowing rhythm, as if guided by an invisible hand. Interestingly, many ancient cultures recognized this principle. The Greeks called it kairos, the divine moment where time meets human readiness. Eastern traditions speak of the Tao, the natural flow that those who align with it find everything arriving on time. Jung, in psychological terms, named this experience synchronicity, and a woman with profound spiritual wisdom is its living embodiment. However, Jung also warned of a risk. Not every coincidence is synchronicity. Sometimes the eager ego clings to any sign to fulfill desires. Through deep self-awareness, this woman learns to distinguish the universe's true voice from the ego's illusions. This discernment keeps her from delusion, preventing her from seeing every random event as fate, maintaining clarity in her trust in invisible guidance. And this clarity makes her life proof that the sacred need not be sought. It finds those ready to receive it. When your inner world is aligned, you don't chase signs, they come to you. When you no longer crave to prove your uniqueness, your life unfolds like a mythic tale. Perhaps this is why people describe these women as having uncanny luck. But it's not luck, it's resonance. They are like polished mirrors, reflecting the precise light needed, and thus the universe cannot help but respond. It is a secret dialogue between soul and world. Ultimately, these invisible hallmarks are not for display, but the quiet essence of a soul choosing to live true to its depths. Their strength comes not from clamor, but from harmony between inner and outer worlds. Their influence is not measured in numbers, but felt in the calming of space when they are present. Jung showed that when the unconscious and conscious find a shared voice, life ceases to be disjointed events and becomes a meaningful, clear, luminous story. These women need no pedestal. They stand firm in themselves. They need no validation, for truth manifests through how they live. And that reminds us, returning to your true self is not escaping life, but entering it with deeper presence. Some women don't captivate through striking beauty or exceptional talent. Yet, with a single glance, they become unforgettable, not because of their appearance, but because of something profoundly real, deep, and rare, radiating from within. An energy that cannot be feigned, cannot be replicated. In the lens of Carl Jung, this is a woman who has journeyed through individuation. She no longer lives solely within the roles society has scripted for her: gentle, perfect, dutiful. She has descended into her inner darkness, where fears, wounds, primal desires, and the rejected shadow reside, and she has not turned back. She no longer strives to be loved. She becomes love, not in a saccharine sense, but as a state of complete presence, so authentic that others cannot ignore it. And when a woman reaches this wholeness, she emits 7 unmistakable vibes. These vibrations don't come from makeup, pleasing words, or a polished image. They arise from an awakened inner world, as powerful and profound as a deep ocean. What are these 7 vibes? We are about to step into the terrain where darkness and light merge into one. Some of these vibes may starkly contrast with the ideal woman you once tried to become. But when you linger and listen to vibe number 4, you'll understand why striving to please others only pulls you further from yourself. Are you ready? Vibe 1. A presence that awakens others. Some women don't just enter a room. They pierce through the space like a silent electric current, stirring everyone in quiet reverberation. It's not because she's breathtakingly beautiful or overtly striking, but because something in her energy compels others to pause, to reflect on themselves. Her gaze seems to cut through masks, touching the parts people strive to hide. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This isn't just a psychological warning. It explains the unique sensation carried by women who have walked the path of individuation. They are no longer swayed by unconscious impulses. They have faced their inner darkness, worked through their pain, and untangled the knots in their soul that most choose to ignore. Thus, when you stand before her, you don't just see her. You see a mirror, not a smooth, comforting one like those in the physical world, but a mirror of the soul, where you suddenly glimpse truths you've avoided. You realize you've been pretending. You recognize the loneliness you've been fleeing. You uncover the deepest desires buried under the daily must-dos. She doesn't try to change you, yet her presence silently asks, Have you truly lived as yourself? And the terrifying thing is, you know the answer. This energy cannot be memorized or mimicked. It doesn't stem from skills or knowledge. It comes from daring to traverse one's darkness without fleeing. When such a woman speaks with you, she doesn't just hear your words. She hears what you're avoiding. And astonishingly, you begin to hear it too, perhaps for the first time in your life. Imagine a casual conversation. You talk about work, the things you're doing, the people you've met. With others, it might pass as harmless small talk, but with her, a single glance or a simple question like, "Are you truly happy?" leaves you faltering because it strikes the ambiguity you carry. Her presence evokes inner honesty, a quality many have lost in the rush of a performative life. She doesn't try to teach you anything. But near her, you want to live more authentically, not to be accepted, but because you suddenly recall the feeling deep in your heart when you were truly yourself. In Jungian psychology, such a person is often connected with the archetype of the seeker or the wise one. They don't dwell on the surface. They dive deep. They read the truth in the unspoken, which is why they make pretense impossible. On one hand, this can leave others feeling exposed, even unsettled. On the other hand, it creates an inexplicable pull because humans are drawn to truth, especially the truths they haven't dared face. This presence doesn't come from knowing who you are in a rational sense, but from accepting all that you are, beautiful and ugly, light and dark, strong and fragile. Such a woman doesn't need to control others, for she has ceased battling herself. In a world full of masks, someone who no longer hides becomes radiant. You might meet her at a gathering, a meeting, or even in a fleeting glance at a crowded cafe. But even in those brief moments, you'll carry her energy with you, like the aftershock of a quiet wave that has touched your depths. You can't ignore what you felt, nor can you fully return to who you were before. That's why such a presence is so rare, and why, when someone reaches this level of energy, don't they need to hold on to anyone, because no one wants to lose them. Vibe 2, the tamed shadow. If the first energy is a presence that awakens others, the second is one that startles them. Presence alone isn't enough if a shadow still lurks within, ever ready to rise. This woman doesn't merely exist. She has lived with the dangerous parts of herself. In Carl Jung's view, the shadow isn't evil. It's everything we refuse to see about ourselves: suppressed anger, unnamed jealousy, selfishness, shame, feelings of inferiority, all shoved deep into the basement of the psyche and locked away. But what's denied doesn't vanish. It hides in the unconscious, manipulating us from behind the curtain. A woman who has tamed her shadow isn't someone who no longer feels anger. She's someone who has sat with her anger as one would with an abandoned child. She neither lets it drive her into chaos, nor locks it away to maintain a poised facade. She understands the language of her shadow, and thus it no longer controls her. Picture her in an argument. The other person yells, attacks, and tries to dominate. She doesn't retaliate, nor does she passively endure. Instead, her gaze is sharp as a mirror, neither aggressive nor yielding. She fears neither the other person nor the turmoil rising within her. She knows anger isn't the enemy. It's a signal that her boundaries are being crossed, and she knows how to protect those boundaries without losing control. Her shadow is no longer a wild beast caged. It's a wolf walking beside her, trained, loyal, powerful, and keen. You might not see it immediately, but you'll sense the wildness transformed into a quiet strength. And that's what makes others wary, knowing they can no longer play manipulation games with her. Jung believed that when we haven't integrated our shadow, we project it onto others. The more you deny your aggression, the more you're drawn to or provoked by the aggression of others. But a woman who has made peace with her shadow no longer reacts instinctively. She isn't pulled into old scripts. She stands outside the whirlwind that others are caught in, and thus she becomes dangerous in a quiet way. She may smile gently, but you know there were times she wanted to scream. She may be patient, but you sense clearly that if you cross her boundaries, there won't be a second chance. That's what creates an indescribable allure, because no one can truly love you if you haven't faced your darkness. But when you do, your love ceases to be a plea. It becomes a sovereign choice. Such a woman often has a challenging past. She may have rebelled, been consumed by jealousy, or felt weak to the point of madness. But instead of using a facade to erase those unsightly chapters, she learned to continue writing her story without tearing out the early pages. And so, she doesn't say, "I've overcome so much." Her energy itself conveys that this is someone who has fallen, been immersed in chaos, and found her way out with her own hands. If you've ever glimpsed your own shadow, in a burst of anger, a moment of weakness, or a jealousy you dared not name, share that moment. Just to remind each other, every darkness has a path, if we're brave enough not to turn away. Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." When a woman becomes conscious of her darkness, she no longer plays the good girl just to be loved, manipulates others for attention, or fears being disliked. She accepts herself as both light and dark, and that truth makes her irreplaceable. Vibe 3. Directed passion. Before taming her shadow, her passion often took the form of an explosion. Wild love, exhaustive work, desires so intense they could destroy. But when she learned to sit with the darkest parts of herself, she also reclaimed the primal energy that once led her astray. That's when her passion began to find its path. Carl Jung called this energy libido, but not in the conventional sense tied to sexuality. For him, libido was the flow of life energy, instinctive, creative, destructive, and regenerative. And when a woman learns to channel it, rather than be swept away by it, she becomes a flame that knows its way. No longer burning herself out or radiating heat aimlessly, she begins to ignite precisely where it matters. Some women are always busy, brimming with ideas, charging forward, yet still feel empty. In contrast, a woman with this vibe doesn't work to escape or chase to prove anything. She acts from a different place, where every passion is anchored to an inner axis, like a wheel with a center, spinning fiercely yet always aligned. Picture her as an arrow in flight, not launched from impatience or the pressure to succeed. She knows where she's going, and more importantly, why. Her energy isn't scattered in competition or proving her worth, because she doesn't need to be the best to feel worthy. She chooses her path, even if it's slower, moving steadily at her own pace. Each step is a conscious choice, not a reaction to the fear of being left behind. This woman may have once been consumed by fiery romances, burned out from pouring her heart into someone else. But instead of repeating the cycle of aimless longing, she began to ask, "Why am I drawn to such people? Where else could this energy go?" And bit by bit, she reclaimed that energy from emotionally draining relationships, gathering it as fuel for herself. She didn't freeze her desires, she reshaped them. Jung believed that undirected libido expresses itself in chaotic ways: obsession, addiction, manipulation, and emotional dependency. But when integrated into the individuation process, it becomes the raw material for creativity, career, and mature love. And that's what you see in her. She doesn't reject passion. She simply doesn't let it drive when she's not sober. You see this energy in women like Oprah Winfrey. Dubbed the Queen of all media, no one looking at Oprah today would imagine that behind her success is a girl who was abused, pregnant as a teenager, and deemed hopeless by her own family. She had every reason to remain a victim forever, to give up, to live in resentment, to use her pain as a bargaining chip with life. But Oprah didn't choose victimhood. She created The Oprah Winfrey Show. She reclaimed energy from her past, gathered it into fire, and brought it to television, transforming it into conversations that touched millions, into a career that helped others rise from their darkness. By 2007, at certain moments, she was regarded as the most influential woman in the world. That's not just success. That's libido transformed, passion shaped. At the same time, you might encounter this energy in an ordinary single mother. No television platform, no adoring fans. She sells breakfast at the street corner, not because she has no other choice, but because she's quietly saving every penny to open a free cooking class for the neighborhood kids. No spotlight, no stage. But in every snap of a bread roll, in every glance at the children waiting to eat, you'll sense it. This isn't just a mother making a living. This is a woman living true to her directed passion. This woman may be quiet, but you won't forget her. Because in her, passion is no longer a whirlwind. It's a steady, fierce, purposeful current. It's the kind of energy that not only draws others in, but spurs them to look at themselves. Because if someone can reclaim strength from a place of brokenness, can turn longing into direction, then perhaps you can too. Vibe 4. Knowing who she is. When passion finds direction, she can now be everything without straining to play any role. This is the stage of inner definition, where every action, choice, and presence stems not from fear or expectation, but from an unshakable, non-negotiable understanding. She knows who she is. This isn't surface-level knowing like what she likes, dislikes, or wants from others. It's an understanding from within, like a tree knowing its roots before it blooms. Knowing who she is means no longer living to perform. It's discerning what is her true essence and what she was taught to become. This is what Jung called the separation from the persona, the social mask. And a woman with this vibe is no longer confined by any mask. She doesn't need to be the accomplished woman, the ideal daughter, or the dream lover to feel complete. She can be soft, strong, wrong, silent. All of it is her, with no role left to play. And this shedding unleashes an energy that others can't help but notice, the energy of wholeness within herself. A story shared by a follower of our channel might paint this clearer. She was a team leader at an architecture firm, often labeled cold or unapproachable by new colleagues because she never flattered the boss and always spoke up when something was wrong. She never tried to please anyone. Yet when a project hit a crisis, she was the first to take responsibility for the team, never abandoning anyone, even over a small mistake. And that same woman, initially met with wariness, became the one her team trusted most. Knowing who she is doesn't make her rigid. On the contrary, it makes her more flexible because she is no longer threatened by differences. When you don't need to prove yourself, you have space to truly listen. When you don't need validation, you can live your values every day. Jung said that individuation is the process of pulling the ego away from the collective values it once identified with. A woman with this vibe has passed through the breaking of the old ego, and though it may have been painful or disorienting, she emerged with a version of herself that doesn't need acceptance to know she's worthy of existing. Before moving on, take a quiet moment. Breathe slowly. I want you to pause and answer this. Right now, are you living as yourself or as a version the world suggested you should be? Write it down, or just say it in your mind, because sometimes being honest with yourself doesn't need witnesses, only the courage to admit it. Knowing who she is also means she knows her boundaries, and no one can negotiate them. She doesn't need to argue to be respected. When she stands, looks at you, and says, "I don't accept that," it's enough for you to understand. This isn't someone who will bend to please. And perhaps the strangest thing about a woman who knows who she is how life begins to respond to her differently. Jung called this a meaningful coincidence. No longer blind chance, but the world's natural reaction to a clear essence. When you know who you are, you stop chasing every opportunity, and you choose only what aligns with the energy you embody. Not every opportunity is lucky. Not everyone who comes should stay. She knows what drains her and what brings her alive. Knowing this, she stops investing in what doesn't resonate, not out of harshness, but because she understands the value of alignment. And when you stop compromising with what's out of tune, you begin to attract the right people, moments, and opportunities. An invitation arrives just after you disconnect from an old space. A companion appears when you stop playing the needy role. An opportunity opens days after you dare to let go of something misaligned. These things can't be forced. They come only when you've become the frequency that matches them. Conversely, if you continue to attract toxic relationships, draining jobs, or exhausting cycles, pause and ask, whose life am I living? You might be operating from a borrowed ego, a version built to please others, and the world is simply reflecting that. If you've ever doubted, imitated, or contorted yourself to fit expectations for approval, meeting this woman will remind you what it feels like to live as yourself. And perhaps you'll wonder, if she can be so fully herself, can I? Vibe 5. Deep emotion, neither manipulating nor avoiding. When a woman truly knows who she is, she no longer suppresses her emotions to maintain an image, nor does she let them take the wheel and drag her along. If once she shed tears to hold on to someone, now she may still cry, but not as someone losing herself. In the modern world, emotions are often treated as a weakness or a currency for exchange. We learn to seem fine while crumbling inside. Or, conversely, we wield tears, sulking, or prolonged silence as subtle weapons to make others feel guilty, fear losing us, or believe we deserve more love. But a woman with this vibe no longer needs such tactics. She has learned to feel without swallowing, to face without clinging, to express without performing. Carl Jung said, "Emotion is the chief source of consciousness. There is no change from darkness to light or from inertia to movement without emotion. Emotions are the raw material of awakening." She understands that every surge of anger, every pang of sadness, every twinge of jealousy isn't a problem to extinguish, but a signal from a deeper layer of the unconscious, where unmet needs knock at the door. She doesn't rush to react. She pauses, listens, and responds with maturity rather than a defensive reflex. Imagine you're in a relationship and your partner unintentionally hurts you. Most people fall into two patterns: silent resentment, waiting for the other to notice their fault, or an outburst, feeling abandoned or undervalued. But she might say something simple, without blame. "That made me feel disrespected." A viral video from an emotional education workshop for children captures a moment that silenced an entire room. A divorced elementary school teacher spoke to her 8-year-old son. "Mommy's sad, but it's not your fault. You don't need to cheer up to make me feel better. Emotions aren't scary, they're just passing through." A simple sentence, yet it carries immense psychological power. She wasn't just comforting her child, she was breaking an unconscious generational chain, the kind that teaches children to endure well, or worse, to be responsible for adults' emotions. With those words, she planted a lesson many adults still haven't learned. Emotions are for feeling, not for imprisoning. This woman might cry in a meeting if something touches her heart. But her tears aren't weak. They're powerful. They aren't meant to persuade, fix, or elicit pity. They're simply life, flowing out and settling again, light as a passing rain. She might feel anger, but won't lash out or blame others. She knows her anger has a source, and instead of letting it wound, she traces it back and heals where it began. Jung believed that someone who can fully face their emotions, neither controlled by them nor denying them, becomes a stable center amid life's chaotic whirlwinds. That's this woman. Her depth doesn't come from reading many books, but from sitting long enough in her emotional darkness without fleeing. And so, when you're near her, you feel something strange. You're allowed to feel. No judgment, no dismissal, no urging to be positive, just the simple permission to be with what is. You see, not every deep person is pensive, philosophical, or poetic. Some are deep because they don't fear feeling. And because of that, they don't need to make a spectacle. They simply exist, and others naturally feel safe to be honest. That's a rare vibe. It can't be learned. It can't be faked. It emerges only when you stop fighting your emotions and start listening to their call. And when a woman has done this, she no longer relies on others' love to feel worthy. Because deep within, every emotion is allowed to exist, to be understood, and to be held with the love she gives herself. Vibe 6, Archetypal Wisdom. There's a kind of wisdom that doesn't ring out in words, isn't found in degrees, and doesn't show up in right or wrong debates. It's a wisdom that can't be taught, only lived. And when a woman has learned to stay with herself, even in her most chaotic moments, this wisdom begins to rise from within. Carl Jung called it archetypal wisdom, knowledge accumulated through thousands of years of human spiritual evolution, residing in the collective unconscious and emerging through primal images like the mother, the goddess, the healer, the warrior, the witch. These aren't roles she chooses, but ancient energy streams she connects with when she releases her ego and touches her true essence. This isn't the wisdom of being understanding or reading people to control situations. It's a profound, sharp intuition that lets her see the essence of an issue, even when those involved are still in the fog. People listen to her not because she speaks much, but because they sense she's voicing something within them, something they haven't yet named, but know is true. I once knew such a woman. She worked as a cook in a small eatery on the city's outskirts. Standing daily by a steaming pot of broth, she was ordinary, unremarkable. But once after I visited following a confusing decision to quit my job, she didn't pry with questions. After hearing a few sentences, she gently placed her hand on my shoulder. What's true will come back. What's not real, no matter how hard you hold on, will slip away. I didn't know whether to cry or stay silent, because I knew she wasn't speaking from a place of mere comfort. She spoke from a place of having been there, having understood, without needing to explain. I still recall that afternoon, amid the steam of pho and the clatter of pots. She said nothing more, just chopped vegetables and ladled broth. But the air around me had shifted. Sometimes wisdom doesn't need explanation, it just needs to be witnessed. Archetypal wisdom doesn't crave recognition, it radiates naturally. You see it in the single mother raising her child with clear-eyed resilience, free of resentment. In the eldest sister, who stays silent during family arguments, but, when she speaks, makes the room pause. In the quiet friend whose advice hits so deeply, it leaves you stunned. She doesn't need to win arguments because she doesn't use wisdom to prove herself right. She uses it to light the way for herself and sometimes unintentionally for others. Her presence shifts the atmosphere. You find yourself softening your tone, thinking more carefully, being more honest, because she reminds you, you can live more deeply than this. Jung believed archetypes don't think, they operate. That's why this woman doesn't need to justify her actions or choices. She lives with the fullness of honed intuition, neither impulsive nor rigidly rational. And you'll notice, her every decision carries the precision of someone who knows exactly where she stands in the larger tapestry. And when you're near her, you don't want to become like her. You want to come closer to yourself. Because the most beautiful thing about a woman with archetypal wisdom isn't in her. It's in the part of you she touches. The part you've always known was there, just waiting to be awakened. She doesn't just live in the present. She senses the undercurrent of everything unfolding. A small conversation carries depth. A conflict can be a psychological turning point. She doesn't dwell on the surface. And when you're near her, you can't stay on the surface for long either. That's the profound beauty of a woman connected to her inner archetypes. She doesn't make others admire her. She makes them want to dive deeper into themselves. Because you sense, if she can access that, perhaps you can too. Vibe 7, a mirror. Not for admiration, but for seeing oneself. When a woman has connected with the archetypal wisdom within, she no longer needs to say, I've grown, I've healed, or I'm whole. She doesn't need to prove anything. Her very presence becomes a mirror, not for others to gaze into with admiration, but for each person standing before her to begin seeing themselves. This is the final vibe, and the most subtle. It's not as vivid as passion, not as sharp as wisdom, not as jolting as tamed pain. It manifests in how others react in her presence. Some feel healed, some feel triggered. Some find her magnetic, yet can't say why. Others avoid her because not everyone is ready to face themselves. Carl Jung said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." A woman with this vibe is a catalyst for transformation without intervening. Simply by being there, she prompts you to look at yourself, sometimes with awe, sometimes with discomfort, but never with indifference. Because she doesn't play roles or wear labels. She simply lives authentically. And that authenticity stirs what's inauthentic within you. Sometimes, her presence doesn't need to be loud. It might be in a fleeting moment when you see her guiding her bike past, quietly picking a fallen leaf off a step. A small act, yet it makes you wonder, how have I been present in my day? She doesn't try to inspire. She doesn't quote profound sayings or perform a desirable life. She lives her own, sometimes quietly, even humbly. But when you're near her, you want to stand taller, speak truer, live kinder. Not because she demands change, but because her integrity leaves you no reason to pretend. I once knew such a woman, not famous, not a meditation teacher, not spiritual in the usual sense. She was a receptionist at a small therapy center, always in a simple blouse, hair neatly tied, soft-spoken. Few noticed her. But once I saw her step out from the break room, where a client had just sobbed through a session that unearthed painful memories. She didn't offer comforting words. She simply placed a glass of water down, handed over a tissue, and stood there. No rush, no avoidance, just still. The way she stood, it was as if she were lending the other person a piece of her steadiness, without needing a single word. After that, I observed her more. The way she greeted each person, never carelessly. The way she listened to someone finish their sentence, never interrupting, never rushing to respond, as if every person, every moment, deserved to be fully present. Once I asked her, "Have you ever taken healing courses?" She smiled faintly and said, "No. I just try to be truly present in the small things, because for too long I wasn't present with myself." Her answer left me speechless. It voiced something I hadn't dared admit. I was still often running from myself, even while talking about awakening. She didn't change me with advice or influence, but by living true to herself, she made me pause, reflect, and remember the deepest part of me, where gentleness, listening, and truth still waited to be named. A woman with this vibe doesn't draw you in with her allure, but with how she makes you feel about yourself in her presence. If you're on a path of growth, you'll find motivation. If you're avoiding something, you'll feel unease. But either way, she doesn't try to change you. She doesn't try to heal anyone. She knows everyone must face their mirror, but only when they're ready. Jung said, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people." And that's what makes her mirror unique. It's not coated with sweet words or cushioned with indulgence. It's a true mirror, reflecting exactly what you carry, even the parts you don't want to see. Not to judge, but to help you pause and ask, "How am I living?" And so, not everyone can stay with her. Some will leave, saying she's too cold, hard to understand. But the truth is, she's not hard to understand. They're just not ready to understand themselves. She doesn't try to stay, doesn't beg to be kept, because she knows those who can stay with her must first be able to stay with themselves. And you know, a woman like this always leaves a mark, not in memory, but in the soul, like a seed awakened, like a barren patch within you that suddenly wants to crack open. Because, in the end, she doesn't give you anything new. She simply helps you remember something old, true, and always within you. You might have thought becoming a whole woman meant learning to be strong, always knowing what you want and acting decisively. But the women we've journeyed with here show the opposite. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present with yourself truly. There's no certificate for inner growth. There's no finish line for becoming yourself. Some days you'll feel steady, others like you're back at the start. But every time you keep going, dare to sit with a seemingly small emotion. Dare to ask yourself honest questions. You're inching closer to a wholeness no one can take away. And maybe right now you don't feel you've touched these vibes yet. That's okay. The most precious thing isn't where you are on the journey, but that you're walking, waking up from the dream others painted for you, returning to your original self. Because the most beautiful thing about a woman isn't that she's completed her individuation journey, but that she has the courage